Kia ora, and welcome to another episode of the Leadership Lounge. Not just another episode, this is episode number 24. And there's a couple of things. It's a bit of significance because, I was actually going to try and get to 25 episodes and wrap that up as season 1. Well, just spoiler alert, that's not happening. We're going to wrap up season 1 with this episode. So not only is this episode 24, this is the last episode in season 1. So, the Leadership Lounge, this is the place for healthcare leaders to take a moment to pause, to think, reflect, and get a fresh perspective on the work that they do. I'm Katie, I'm your host, and I've worked in healthcare for over 30 years, and I now work with leaders and their teams to help them manage the demands and the complexity of what it's like to work in healthcare right now, so that you can feel supported, encouraged, and hopeful about this space that we're working in. So this week, and why the sudden, no, we're not going to have episode 25. We are going to wrap up season 1 with episode 24. Well, to be quite honest, I'm going on holiday. And for a list of reasons, I had not got round to pre-recording enough podcast episodes. So I'm running out of time before I'm getting on a plane. And I'm like, you know what? We're just going to end it here. We're just gonna wrap up on season 1, and I'm gonna take a bit of a break. I do believe in this idea of role modeling, the stuff that I talk to people about, but it's really hard, and I want to do all the stuff and get all the things done and look really slick and look really organised. Well, it just ain't coming together this last couple of weeks. So there you go, full honesty there. So this idea of going on holiday and why it's so hard for us to be able to let that down and just put work down and just walk away from it. It's really hard. I remember finding it hard when I worked in leadership roles, and probably one of my most pivotal roles when I was a charge nurse. I remember I was flying back to the UK, landed, opened up my suitcase. I'm really excited. I'm in my friend's house. I'm staying there. We've got things lined up. And I grab my phone and open my email and see this work email. And I'm like, why have they done that? And I instantly, forgot about the fun 24 hours you spend traveling between New Zealand and the UK. Forgot all about that, forgot all about the joy I had of seeing my family and friends that I hadn't seen for ages. And I am practically back in my office, a world away, literally the other side of the world, and I'm frustrated about X, Y, and Z, and why can't they do this? And equally realise I am completely powerless to do anything about this situation. And it took I can't remember how long now, this is a while ago, and it took me a good little while to kind of readjust and reset again. After I'd done the reset that you first do when you get onto a plane, or that's where I do it anyway, and get back into that kind of, okay, I'm on holiday. It's okay to let this go. So at that point, I remember making a kind of a promise to myself that I wouldn't do that I would, when I go on holiday, I would turn the email off, and because the holidays were important. I knew that instinctively. And so I've explored that in the different jobs that I've done in different times, and I'm really curious as to now, here I am in my own job, if you like, that I've created for myself. And again, I've loved all the work that I've done, which I think makes it a bit harder to let that stuff go. But here I am again, worrying about, am I going to be able to put the work stuff down? So it's good to explore that and remind all of us why taking a break matters and why it is important. So there's two big things, I think, that have sat with me. And the first one, and the one that I wrote about when I first started with my weekly emails, which, as you know, you can sign up to at www.katiequinney.com/subscribe, the No Jedi email that comes out every week. This, one of the big topics that I talk about, but why it's linked to taking a holiday, is this idea of trust. Because when you say to somebody, I'm going on holiday, here are the things that I need you to look after, or here are the things that are going on, you're trusting them. You're entrusting them with work that you care about, work that you're passionate about, but you're also trusting their decision making, you're trusting their development. You're doing so much in that space by letting other people do. Even the simple act sometimes of walking out of a unit or out of a ward while people problem solve rather than you having to be in the mix of problem solving everything can increase that trust. Because it lets people explore things, make the mistakes that they need to make to learn how to do stuff. So there's this huge, really important thing about going on holiday that lets your team know that you trust them. That you don't have to be looking over their shoulders at every minute, every day to know that the work is going to get done or the care is going to get delivered. So it's a huge trust building exercise. And if you don't feel like that about your team, then that's a whole other conversation that we can have another time. But there's also something in this space about trusting yourself, about trusting that you can step away, that you can spend some time with yourself. Because when we can get engrossed in and wrapped up in our work and our jobs, that takes a lot of our identity as well. And this is a thing I know I've talked about, I've glimpsed at it, and it's definitely on the list to keep talking about, this idea of how hard we hold our identities in healthcare, particularly when you've got that clinical professional element as well. But I think it actually spreads across all of them because there's such a high purpose and high values alignment with people that choose to work in healthcare. So it's something that affects everyone. The work is who I am. And stopping doing that means you're actually questioning that. You kind of like say, so who am I without the doing? If I'm not an X, then what am I? So stepping away and going on holiday actually means that you've got to kind of readjust yourself and you've got to look at yourself, which is a good thing and can be a challenging thing. Another sort of slightly sadder story, I remember stepping into a senior leadership role and I was about to go on holiday, and one of my peers, my colleagues, turns around to me and says, well, you know that as such and such, we never have holidays. And I was kind of like completely blown away that that was what a senior person thought when I had made that discovery as a younger leader, thinking, no, I really need my holidays because I come back so much better. And my team have a great time without me because I really trust them. So yeah, I am going to take my holiday. Thanks very much. And no, I'm not going to be checking my emails while I'm away. And this was a real shock. There's quite a cultural difference around how we perceived our holidays. So I found one article, there's actually on my website, I've written about this topic on a couple of occasions, both in the sort of the preamble as you lead up to a holiday, but also in the reflective mode as to when you come back from a holiday. And there's a lot of good resources and links and things in there. So I'll pop the links to those blog posts in the show notes. But I did another recent search. I also got completely engrossed in the statistics of vacation time around the world and who takes more and who takes less and who underuses and who overuses. Quite fascinating. France and Germany, turns out, don't use as much leave as they have. Who knew? Anyway, back to this HBR article I find, which talks about the reason why taking a vacation is good for our well-being in looking at our bodies, our minds, and our spirits, or our souls. And the couple of things that really stuck out was this idea of the fact that we just are kind of rushing around all the time. This overwhelm often leads to sort of difficulty concentrating, forgetfulness, and that cognitive fatigue. So there's this really cognitive impact of the work that we do. And so going on holiday allows for that to kind of just readjust, and that you're uncluttering your mind, and it just boosts that creativity. So there's a great cognitive improvement in taking a holiday. And there's also this idea of sleep debt. and that most of us are carrying some sleep debt. And so you suddenly get that ability to readjust that. And so with the sleep, the creativity, and the not doing as much means that you're coming back to work more focused, more productive. And so that is particularly helpful for you and the work that you've got to do as a leader, but it's equally helpful for the organisation and the system that you're working within. So there was one thing, I'll read out this little quote from this article, said an Ernst & Young study showed that for every additional 10 hours of vacation time that employees took, their end-year performance improved 8%. And then it says another study showed using all of your vacation time increases your chances of getting a promotion or a raise. Let's not go down that track with healthcare right now at the moment. But the idea is that when you come back, you have got this focus and productivity increase. There was also some, in terms of the body element, this idea of relaxing, allowing your immune system to recharge itself, reducing the risk of heart disease. There was lots of ways to relax in terms of whether it be out in nature, getting a massage, whatever the things that you like to do when you're on holiday. Me, I am going to be sitting and reading fiction, which is what we talked about last week. But I hope to be sitting in the warmth, not doing very much, bit of strolling maybe, but mainly I'm stopping. I need to focus on the doing nothing part. And I'm going to struggle to transition to that, so I'm using fiction as my gateway to doing nothing. And I'm hoping there will be lots of naps. That's my shift and what I'm going to be doing. The last part in the article talks about the spiritual element, and this is that part of this identity thing, because we've stopped and put things down and we're not doing stuff. It allows us to be who we really are at our core, and we can start to let our minds go to those places about what do I really want, what's most important to me. You know, we're much likely to get some answers to some of the things that we've been struggling with when we've created the space for some stillness. We get that our option to listen to our inner voices because we're not busy in the doing, and we can actually contemplate that question, who am I without the doing? So there's, wealth of evidence and research and all that data around there about why taking a holiday is important. One context in what I understand and what I know about burnout is that if suffering from burnout, yes, often you do need that time away and that break, but coming back to the same situation means you're going to be back in that same situation. So if you're suffering and experiencing burnout, then there are some other things to think about and to add into this. For this conversation in the lounge this week, I'm really talking about that. It's time to go on holiday. It's time to have your annual holiday. And how do you remind yourself of why a holiday matters and why a holiday is important, and what are the benefits from it for you and for those that you're working with? And we've got those things there. We've got that well-being aspect, and we've got this idea of trust, those two elements. The other thing I was thinking about is that in the lead up to the holiday, and a lot of people talk about this, and a lot of people, particularly as we come up into the Christmas season, this is one of those, this fantasy deadline for everything to be done by Christmas. And it can be a bit like that when you're going on holiday. I've got to get all this done, I've got to get all this done. And that is definitely where I'm at right now. I've got this list of stuff, I've got to make sure that's done and this is done. And I had been as organised as I thought I could be and blocked some time out to get this stuff done, and I am nowhere near as ready as I wanted to be or thought I would be. But so this idea of I've got to get all this done. So as I'm getting closer to the deadline, what it's causing me to do is to really focus on what actually has to be done. And while I've got this long list of stuff, and yes, recording this podcast was one of those things on that list, and it's made it, obviously, as it's been recorded, but it's forced me to stop and go, okay, what really has to be done? What's really crucial? What really matters? And in order to answer those questions, you've got to be really clear on your values, your mission, your purpose, those reasons why you're doing all those things. Because if everything is urgent and everything is important, you're never going to be able to filter that stuff out. So I've been able to go through some stuff and go, no, actually, that doesn't have to be done. That's a nice to have, not a have to have, when I'm in this state of I don't want to sit on that plane a complete, exhausted, crumpled wreck. I want to be able to sit on that plane and be, have a level of energy for the trip. So it comes back again to that space of why what we do matters. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why does doing this work matter? So that you can then align your decision making with those core points about your values, your mission, and your purpose. So going from this space of taking a holiday, enjoying that space, that time of relaxing that supports your well-being from a mind, body, and spirit perspective. From a space of being able to step away and trust your team and trust the systems and the processes that you've got in place, but also for that space for you to trust yourself, that you can spend some time in your own company, that you can ask yourself some of those questions, that you can let your mind wander. There is the moment your brains get a moment to rest, all sorts of magic can occur. So that's the joy of taking some holidays. So wrapping up then season 1, and there's a few things coming up in the next few weeks that I want to make sure that you're aware about. First thing up is Mental Health Awareness Week. Now that in Aotearoa. Now that starts on the 23rd of September, and really important week. This is one of those few things that I make sure I always write about or talk about or share in social media or through the weekly email. And I think when I get back, I think one of the starting points for season 2 will be sharing why that's so important to me, because there's some real personal reasons, some personal stories, as well as some work-related stories as to why this really matters to me. But look out for the stuff about Mental Health Awareness Week. Check out the website. Their work packs have all sold out. They sell out they run out because they give them away. It's amazing what they give away, the Mental Health Foundation. And they've all gone, but you can download the digital resources, and there are some phenomenal things in there. Mental Health Awareness Week is a fabulous opportunity to start conversations about mental health in the workplace and in your communities. The theme this year is about community, and as you know, one of the things I talk about a lot is how we can't do any of this alone. So our communities really matter, and that connection and the community that you've got as a leader is super important. So check out Mental Health Awareness Week. And connected to, and because of my my interest and how much I value this work, I'm running a couple of free mini webinars looking at the Healthy Mind Platter. I've done a couple so far, and I'm learning each time, because actually 30 minutes goes flipping quickly. And so I'm trying to do this bit of sharing some knowledge, getting some connection going. So it's still a tweak. If you've been to one of the couple I've run already, thank you for coming along. So great to see people. I'm learning each time. They are free, so you can come back to a second. There's no limit. I'm running a couple more of those, and I'll pop the links to that. And then one of the things that has grown out of my personal stories, but awareness and understanding of these two things that matter a lot to us as we show up, this idea of energy, how we look after our energy, how we notice what our energy is like, but how we restore and rebuild our energy, and also that sense of community, the support that you have around us. And this evolved into this model that I called Spark and Support, and I'm running a longer webinar where I talk through this model. And what you end up with when you look at this model is a personal plan for all the potential variations on your energy levels and your support levels that you've got around you. So that's a paid webinar that's coming up in November. So I'll pop the links to those. So all is in this connected with this well-being space, I suppose. And as I just wrap up the season 1 end then, which is I've got slightly more excited about now for some reason. I don't know why. I was just kind of like, it was more of a numbers game when I thought about it. I thought, oh yeah, get to 25, have a break. But now it feels like a thing actually, season 1. I am feeling pretty proud of this, to be honest. I had a quick look back through the topics that we've covered in the Leadership Lounge, and it is an amazing array of topics, but definitely I kind of got this impression that we were kind of flipping or seesawing between this, oh my goodness, I'm completely exhausted, oh my goodness, I've got no energy, how do I keep going, to the other side of the how I'm managing all this overwhelm, how do I keep going? It just felt like this real roller coaster of getting stuff done, hitting a low point, picking up some energy, getting yourself back up on the tracks and keeping going. And I just got really curious. I thought, I wonder if that's the symptom, or if that's what we're feeling in healthcare right now, this roller coaster of, and here we go again, down another chute, and now I've got to find the energy to get back up, and now we're on a spinny, loopy, upside down thing. And so I just got really curious about that. And I guess there's also elements around how we define success and how we build our relationships and how we are stronger together. But I've got really curious about this idea of, if that's what it's feeling like in healthcare right now, this roller coaster, what is that teaching us and telling us? And who knows what my holiday mind, my freed up mind will come with that. And there will be a notebook, while I will also be reading lots of fiction. So that was where I kind of got. But the point is that this is a great opportunity for you to say and let me know what topics you'd like to hear shared and discussed and talked about in the Leadership Lounge. So you can let me know what you think, you can let me know your ideas, that kind of questions. What are you struggling with? What do you think are the topics that we should be sharing and discussing and chewing over in the Leadership Lounge? So thank you again for listening, to those people that have been listening from the beginning and those that have joined along. It is a real pleasure to have you here as part of this community, as we are, each of us, working in our different ways in how we make our healthcare system the system that is great fun, joyful and empowering to work in, but also one that is delivering the care that the communities that we are serving so deserve and so need. Thank you so much for the work that you are doing. I will be taking a break now for a couple of weeks, but I will be seeing you back here very soon in season 2 of the Leadership Lounge.